Cowboy Wisdom Hypno Acuity and Cowboy Wisdom podcast. Tonight's podcast is 7 Ways Why Chaos is Endawakenings Unschools My Mind. Why chaos is Endawakenings unschools my mind, unwinds my divine daredevilry, breathes my spirit prowess, revolutionizes every day, endeavoring sassy tenacity. Endawakenings is a collapse of yesterday's programming that simultaneously ignites sovereign awakened awareness to witness my here and now wow with wisdom, optimism, and wondrous curiosity. Chaos is a raw frontier where my end awakenings ignite the place where endings and beginnings breathe through the same crack and unschools the mind from every illusion it ever inherited. That's something I want to explain to everybody or showcase. We inherited most of the stuff inside our subconscious mind, our bodies, and we inherited it from way back when. But when it's out in the open, it's expressing now. So chaos never breaks me. It breaks the stale choreography my mind keeps replaying. In that rupture, my original signal returns my clarity, sharpens thy sovereignty as my outgrow finally dissolves, as chaos cracks the shell of hell from yesterday's stagnation, as my end awakenings can ignite through the fracture and the fissuring of yesterday. Chaos is never a disruption, it's an ignition. It breaks the stale choreography my mind keeps replaying, letting the ending and the awakening breathe through the same opening. In that rapture, my fierce, fresh foresight unleashes my now and finally has room to rise, shine, energize, and expand through life with ease. Chaos unschools the mind by stripping away every illusion I was trained to trust. And most of the training was done by me. So it's really liberation of me. As the mind loses its scripts, it rolls its recycled meanings. What remains is raw awareness, instinctive, sovereign, unfiltered, ubiquitous curiosity. Chaos doesn't confuse me, it liberates me from the domesticated version of myself. Chaos energizes my fierce, fresh now by dissolving the past grip on my perception. Chaos shakes loose the mind made now and built from yesterday's fear. In that shake, clarity snaps awake, presence sharpens, and I witness the moment without the dust of moldy old stories. My fierce fresh now is never created. It's unveiled through hellraiser harmony. Chaos shatters the mind's stale choreography as chaos breaks the predictable loops your mind rehearses. When the script collapses, your awareness stops leaning on yesterday's patterns and finally sees the opening it kept missing. Fresh adventures begins the moment familiarity dies as I thrive of my fresh adventurous ardor. Chaos exposes the strength you forgot. You had as a ground shakes, your inner architecture shows itself. Chaos forces you to meet yourself without props, roles, or routines that kept you domesticated. Adventure rises because your raw capabilities wakes up. Chaos dissolves the illusion of control and frees your instinctive intelligence. The mind clings to control. Chaos rips its fingers off the wheel. In that rupture, instinct and intuition and sovereign clarity takes over takes over with the exact ingredients that awakens you to rise, thrive, and energize. Why Endawakenings unleashes fierce, fresh adventures of I be winning now. I be winning. How's that feel? Endawakenings dissolves the version of me that settled, revealing the version of me that hunts new horizons. When an old identity collapses, my instinctive wisdom wakes up with my trailblazer tenacity to ride the ridges of revelations. Into awakening, strip off the domesticated layers and expose the raw self, the raw sovereignty that's built for movement, expansion, and discovery. Fresh adventures rise because the old me is no longer blocking the doorway for me to soar. End awakenings ignite the inner voltage that turns uncertainty into opportunity. That moment something ends, my awareness sharpens. Instead of clinging to what was, I feel the surge of fresh possibilities and stunning scenarios of my desired life. This is I Be Winning, the sovereign rise, where I stopped surviving endings and instantly began writing them into the fresh terrain of my fame and fortune. End awakenings free me from yesterday's limits, so my fierce fresh now chauffeurs me through life with ease. When the past loses its grip, my choices stop being reruns into the movie, my nowography of my movie of now. I glide with clarity, instinct, and unfiltered presence. Adventure becomes inevitable because I'm no longer dragging yesterday into today. I'm leading from the now that's actually mine to unwind the divine. And how have you ever witnessed that in your life? That your adventures take you forward, but you're trying to drag yesterday into today? Oh yeah. But once you realize you're dragging it, it's coming from behind. I'm leading from the now that's actually mine. When you and I fear chaos, it's emotional snapshots and soul tattoos. We fear chaos because emotional snapshots freezes old pain into the soul tattoos that the mind mistakes for prophecy. The moments that hit hard, the betrayal shocks and collapses, get stamped into our inner skin. When chaos shows up, the mind flashes those old images like warning signs, convincing us the past is about to repeat. We're never afraid of chaos. We're afraid of the tattooed memories pretending to be now. We're not afraid of chaos. We're afraid of the tattooed memories pretending to be now. We fear chaos because soul tattoos carry the emotional charge of who we used to be, never who we are now. These imprints were carved into us when we were less aware, less sovereign, and less resourced. Chaos activates them, never to punish us, yet to show us what's outdated. The fear is never current. It's the echo of an old self trying to stay alive. We fear chaos because emotional snapshots distort perception, making the unknown look like a threat instead of a threshold. That's all challenges are, is a threshold. Chaos is neutral, yet the snapshots create the havoc. The mind overlays old images into the new moments, turning possibility into danger. When the tattoo dissolves, chaos becomes what it truly is. A doorway to the fence, to my fierce fresh now. That's why it feels terrifying and why it's a doorway to liberation, energetic liberation. How do you feel when you say energetic liberation? Why, Endawakenings I be winning energizes sassy, colorful curiosity and adventurous artistry liberates me. Endawakenings melt the dull, domesticated version of me and unleashes the sassy, curious creator underneath. When an old identity collapses, my natural color returns. The mind's grayscale filters dissolves, and my curiosity wakes up like the wild desert blooming after a rain. I'm in the Sonora Desert. That's very pretty. I be winning begins because I stopped longer. I stopped longer living from the muted version of myself. I'm living from the vibrant, vivid visions of me flowing free. Endawakenings ignite the adventurous artistry that was buried underneath social obedience and old emotional snapshots and emotional allegiance to yesterday. The moment something ends, my instinctive imagination snaps awake, quaking the old, coloring the now. Chaos clears the stale choreography, and suddenly I'm exploring, experimenting, and playing again. I be winning and streaming uninhibited luck. It's the liberation of the artist within me that sets me free. As I was before, conditioning clipped my wings. I couldn't fly then. Endawakenings energize my liberated now by dissolving the fear that kept my brilliance on a leash. When the past loses its grip, my sassy wisdom, my colorful expressions, and my adventurous spirit stop asking for permission. I move from raw presence, never recycled fear. That's the moment I begin winning becomes my natural state. Victorious frequencies of my liberated me flow through me to the universe, open the airways for me to receive my lavish, endless abundances. Why chaos is from the past, and with now being adventure. Chaos is the past replaying itself, but adventure is the now unveiling itself. Chaos feels threatening, but it's stitched from old emotional snapshots, soul tattoos, uh, and and wow, just went blank as normal. No, and emotional uh, allegiances. The mind drags yesterday's storms into today's sky and calls it danger, but the now, untouched, unscarred, is pure open terrain waiting to be explored. Chaos is the memory trying to stay alive, while adventure is the presence waking up. So, what we call chaos is usually the past refusing to die. It's the echo of who we were, never the signal of who we are. Adventure begins the moment we stop negotiating with the echo and step into the raw immediacy of now. Chaos is the mind's rerun, but as the now is a frontier of my debonair flair, where instinct, curiosity, and sovereignty lead me through my life with the greatest of ease. Chaos loops, and all stuff loops because the mind loves repetition. Adventure rises because present loves the scenarios of now. When I stop mistaking the past for the present, the now becomes a wild, fierce, fresh landscape, never a threat, but an invitation. Why chaos rises me out of the past, thinking sinks me into the past. Chaos rises me because it snaps the mind out of the stale reruns. Chaos interrupts the loop. It cracks the trance of recycled thoughts, forces presence to ignite, while thinking drags me backward into old interpretations. Chaos shocks me awake into raw, unfiltered now with a natural, optimistic, wondrous curiosity. Chaos lifts me because it destroys the mind's illusion of control. While thinking clings to what once felt safe, thinking tries to stabilize the past by replaying it. Chaos refuses to let that happen. It rips the grip of the old meanings off, my perceptions lifting me into a state where instinct, clarity, and sovereignty are leading the way. Chaos elevates me because it dissolves identity, while thinking reinforces the outdated self. I've already outgrown thinking, protects the version of me built from memory. See, everything from thinking is from memory. Chaos melts that version. In the melt, I rise, not as who I am, but as who I actually am right now, as who I am right now. Chaos is the elevator, thinking is the anchor, while embodying my life is a university of adversity, as chaos, challenges, controversy, and adversity are my energetic liberation, sets me free. Embodying my life turns every adversity into a curriculum, making chaos the professor that awakens my unfiltered power. When I fully inhabit my life, never thinking, never narrating it, but embodying it, every challenge becomes a direct transmission that stops being a threat and becomes a teaching frequency and a liberating frequency. Adversity becomes a class where I graduate from fear into sovereignty. Embody in my life, transform controversy and challenge into energetic liberation because I stop resisting what's rising to me to be free. Controversy exposes my edges. Challenge reveals my buried voltage. Adversity cracks the shell of who I was pretending to be. When I embody that moment, these forces don't break me, they break the limits I inherited. Embodying my life sets me free because chaos becomes the catalyst that dissolves old identities and activates my colossal instinctive wisdom. Chaos shakes loose the past. Adversity melts the outdated self. As adversity forces clarity, embodying all of it in turns my life into a sovereign initiation, a living from the university of adversity where every disruption is a liberation disguised as difficulty. Why chaos, why hate, anger, immaturity, insecurity, and all my inner enemies are from my past, dragging me backwards. These forces are past imprinted reflexes, never present moment realities. Chaos, hate, anger, insecurity, they never rise from the now. They rise from emotional timestamps your mind stored when you were less aware, less sovereign, and less resourced. When they flare, they're never responding to the moment. They're replaying the moment you never finished or got to finish. Immaturity and inner enemies are outdated identities trying to survive by pulling you back into who you used to be. Every insecurity, every self attack Every inner critic is a younger version of you clinging to the old script. They drag you backwards because that's the only direction they know. Your evolution threatens every existence, so they try to anchor you to the past. These inner storms drag you backwards because they're built from memory, while your authentic power only exists in your fierce, fresh now. The past generates enemies. The now generates clarity. When you mistake memory for presence, you sink. When you stand of the now, the past loses its grip, and every inner enemy dissolves because it has no action outside of its own timestamp. While listening and hearkening to wisdom in the core of my chaos, adversity, controversy, and challenges destroys my moldy old yesterdays, illuminating my here and now. Wow, that chauffeurs me to my beaches of bountiful bliss, to kiss my good life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Listening to the core of my chaos melts moldy old yesterdays that kept me looping instead of living. When I hearken inward, chaos stops being a noise and becomes a navigation. It exposes the outdated beliefs, stale identities, and crusty emotional leftovers I've been dragging around for years and years and years. The moment I hear the wisdom inside the storm, the past loses its grip. The now lights up like a sunrise over fresh water. Adversity, controversy, challenge become the energetic teachers when I stop resisting and start listening and receiving. Every challenge carries a coded message meant to evolve me and rise me to my here and now. As I listen instead of fight, the lesson reveals itself and the old version of me dissolves. This is the alchemy, and adversity becomes illumination, controversy becomes clarity, challenge becomes liberation. Hearkening to the wisdom inside the storm chauffeurs me to my here and now. Wow, where bliss becomes my natural coastline. When I tune when I attune into the core signal beneath the chaos, I stop living from memory and instantly living from my pristine presence. The now becomes vivid, spacious, and wildly alive. That's when life escorts me effortlessly to my beaches of bountiful bliss, where nothing is missing and everything has a scenario of my desired life in my dreams. While trying to change, heal, create, transform, and forgiveness drag me into the past, creates chaos because thinking snapshots, soul tattoos, and the nervous system drag me backwards. Trying to change or heal drags me backwards because the mind can only work with old snapshots, not the fierce, fresh now. The moment I try to fix myself, the mind pulls up its archive of emotional snapshots and soul tattoos. It replays the wounds, the stories, and the identities I'm trying to escape instead of rising. I get dragged into the museum of who I used to be, and chaos erupts because the mind is fighting ghosts, yet not at the moment. Trying to transform or create from effort activates a nervous system of old survival wiring. Never my sovereign wisdom and intuitive innovations. Effort signals danger. The nervous system thinks I'm bracing for the same storm that tattooed me years ago. So it floods me with old fear codes, old reactions, and old contractions. Transformation becomes turbulence because I'm using yesterday's wiring to build today's life. Trying to forgive pulls me into the past because forgiveness requires remembering the wound, never the releasing the identity built around it. Forgiveness is a mental loop, a ritual of revisiting the injury. Every attempt to forgive reactivates the emotional snapshot, the soul tattoo, and the nervous system imprint. Chaos rises because I am resurrecting the very version of me that's trying to die. Liberation happens when I stop trying to fix the past and start inhabiting the now that has zero wounds. Why self-help, personal growth, self-improvement, punctuated writings, and therapy drag me into the past, thinking it's now is now creates my chaos because it's dragging me backwards. These systems force me to analyze my past, so my mind mistakes yesterday's wounds for today's reality. And that opens my nowality. Self-help and therapy dig up old stories, old snapshots, old emotional timestamps. The mind can't tell the difference between remembering and reliving, so it projects the past onto my present. Chaos erupts because I'm reacting to ghosts as they're standing in front of me. Personal growth and self-improvement keep me fixing a version of myself that only exists in memory. Every improve yourself message assumes something is wrong, but the wrongness is always presented coded. Trying to fix myself resurrects the outdated identity I've already outgrown. Chaos rises because I'm fighting a self that no longer exists, using tools built for who I used to be. Punctuated writings and therapeutic narratives trap me in a language that reactivates old emotional tattoos. Writing about the past re-inks the soul tattoos. Talking about the past recharges the nervous system's old alarms. The more I narrate it, the more the mind believes it's happening now. Chaos becomes a byproduct of storytelling, never the moment itself. So it really rises you up to really let go of everything. As you really open up to understand, chaos is an end awakening, dissolving your past in the present moment. And I am Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Hypno Acuity. And I want to thank you, and may your life be blessed, and enjoy the day your way.